I change my brain? Am I just a victim to who I am? I'm your host, Steve Sisler. Stay tuned for another episode of Behavioral Insights.
Thanks for tuning in to the Behavioral Insights podcast. This is episode 8, and today's going to be special because I have with me New York Times bestselling author, speaker, and unconventional entrepreneur, Tucker Max. So this will be a little bit different for you than what you're used to on this podcast. This is my first guest ever. And I'm going to be going over Tucker's profile. I profiled Tucker 5 years ago when he was the founding partner of bookinabox.com. Now it's Scribe. You can find that at scribewriting.com. If you're interested in publishing a book, I would say Tucker's company is probably the premier organization out there for helping somebody get a book out there that could change the world. Since that time, 5 years ago, Tucker has updated his profile, and we're going to compare the current profile with his profile from 5 years ago. I really hope you enjoy this episode today. It's a little bit longer than you're used to, so be prepared for that. I'll be asking Tucker some questions, going through his profile. He's going to be responding here and there based upon what I'm telling him about himself. This is truly going to be fun for you to listen to because we're going to see how one of the most interesting minds out there thinks. So stay tuned. Okay, I've got Tucker Max with me this afternoon. So Tucker, it's really great to have you on the podcast so that we can look at your brain.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get people sort of up to speed. We met maybe 5 years ago. We had breakfast down in Austin, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. And we ended up, going over your profile and looking at all that. So what was your experience with that? And where do you think you are now? Because we're going to update you and look at where you're at.
Yeah, I remember it being pretty cool. Like it was pretty spot on. It was like pretty shocking how good it was. Mm-hmm. And then, like, I remember you did my co-founder Zach, and then you did mm-hmm. my wife as well, and a few other people in my company. Mm-hmm. And that was 5 years ago. And oh my God, it feels like a lifetime ago, dude.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, and a lot has happened.
Yes.
Since then,
since then I've had 3 kids, and like I was dating my wife at the time, I think, or we were basically engaged, but maybe not quite. So I've had 3 kids since then, and then, like, I've written extensively about, not just therapy, but doing plant medicine therapy and like MDMA mm-hmm. and mushrooms, things like that. And the company has gone from whatever it was, tiny at the time, to we're 45 full-time and 120 plus freelancers. And we're going to, well into the 8 figures now, yearly revenue. So like a lot has changed.
Damn, dude. So this is such a great social experiment for me. Seeing you then, seeing you now, and what we get to do is we get to look at basically the inner workings of how you think, how you viewed the world then and now. Now, having children is a brain change, as you haven't noticed.
Oh yeah.
And so we're going to get to see what that, as well as maybe some other things, including your therapeutic methods and things of that sort. By the way, I want to thank you for that writing. I read those all the time. It's excellent stuff. And I've actually done a few things on my own because of it. It's been really, really good. So I really appreciate that.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm going to go to your former assessment. And this was a form of what I'm doing now, which is called the Holy Trinity, but we've really developed the tools beyond what they were even then in the last 5 years. And we've got one left to automate. So a lot of that algorithm's done by hand, and we work that here in the office, and then it goes out to the client. But anyway, looking at your past numbers, first I want to look at your behavior, and you were about, I'd say, 2 to 3% of the population back then. So I did a data dump this morning before this show, and I have a partner in California that holds all this data of mine. So I called him. We did a data dump. How many human beings out of a random 1,950 people, just pulled 1,950 random people out of the database? How many of those people had an anger emotion that was consistently above 50 on a 100 scale? And out of 1,950 people, there were 184.
If I remember correctly, wasn't mine like, it wasn't the highest you'd ever seen, but it wasn't like one of the highest. It was like 98 or something.
Yeah, you went as high as my algorithm can go. Okay. So you hit the 98. It doesn't go to 100. We stop it at 98, but you would have probably passed it.
Yeah.
So I disallowed you to go any further, but so anything above 89 is considered overextended. In other words, it gets beyond you. And I say you because that's how people in the world understand it. But from my perspective, a person is their brain. It's not, hi, I'm Tucker and I have a brain.
Right.
It's, I'm a brain named Tucker. And so you're a 98. Now, the rest of your primary emotions, optimism, patience, and fear, are all 41 or below. Okay, so this puts you in a unique category of about 2%, 2 to 3%. Because you saw 184, that's just above 50. You're a 98.
Wow.
So that 184 drops down to maybe 20. You see what happens. So out of 1,900 people, you see, it's just a very, very small. So what does that mean? It means when you're with people, most of the people you're around have never seen it before, or they've never worked with it before. Simply because, like when I drive to Dallas, I'll see 65 4-door Ford pickups, F-150 Texas edition. Right. But I'll see 2 or 3 Teslas, maybe 1 Maserati, and I don't know, some other weird cars. But Hondas are everywhere, Toyotas are everywhere, Lexus are everywhere, Fords are everywhere. And that's behavior's the same way. And you're like a Tesla. You just don't see a lot of them. So when we do see one, we gawk. Like, what the heck? It's like going by a bad accident. You slow down because you haven't seen a leg laying on the road before. It's just what humans do. All right. Now, when you adapted, which means when you entered space, you kicked up your optimism from a 41 to an 80, which is you doing your best effort to connect with people. This is back 5 years ago. So, normally, I don't want to bother you because I might be interrupting you. But now that when you were working, you were trying to get along and you were trying to do things through people, not in spite of them. But it was an adaptation. It wasn't your natural way. Naturally, you're just like a bulldozer. And if someone jumps and a kid gets hit, you're like, where the hell was his parents? Like that was the original way you would think back then. And I also want to go over your motivational set. Your highest was power when it comes to the leadership realm. And then your real highest was theoretical. So you're a 96 theoretical, which means your brain wants to know why and has to get to the bottom of things. So you have this real strong inquiring mind. And your power was a 73, which means your brain doesn't get in the car unless you're the one driving.
Yep.
So you were controlling in your anger emotion, which is logical and controlling, and in your needs, your power need, your need to be in the driver's seat was a 73 out of 100. So you combine that and you basically got get in, get out, or get run over as a profile, and a lot of energy put into that. Now, when I look at your axiology scores, so this is the science of value and how you evaluate the world in 6 areas, your empathy score was a visible score. And you were skeptical. And so what that means is, when you're about to make a decision, you're about to do something or say something, how do people's reactions to what you're about to do or say interfere with what you need to do or say? Well, they don't.
Yeah.
You're going to do or say what you need to do or say. And if they don't like it, that's something they have to deal with. And that's kind of how you see people. In your empathy, this was 5 years ago. Practical thinking 5 years ago, you were clear, attentive, which means how well do you understand how your choices are going to affect the targeted results and impact those results? Well, you could clearly see how they would. And when it came to, what you needed to do, then you believed, once I know what to do, why aren't we pulling the trigger on it? And so this is results orientation. So you had a strong results orientation. And then when it came to systems judgment, which is your structured thinking, this has to do with rules, authority figures, protocols, systems, established concrete processes and things of that sort. You clearly understood, what should be done, but you were skeptical about doing it the way somebody else might tell you to do it. So you become subversive, which means you look at the rules to determine if they're worthy of being followed.
Fuck yes.
You see, so if it's a smart rule that you agree with, you're like, that's a good rule. So I want you to understand axiology for a second. It's about concepts. So if I told you, hey, Tucker, go out into the parking lot and grab my wallet off the front seat of my car. I left it out there. You're like, sure. You go out there. There's 100 cars in the parking lot. You're like, crap, I don't know which car is his. You come back in, Steve, which car is yours? And I say, it's the good car. Then you still don't know what to do. So your concept of good car isn't my concept of good car, which isn't maybe a manager that works at your company, their concept of a good car. So when people call me up and say, we need a good project manager, I'm like, what the hell does that mean? That's like saying, I need a good car, go get it for me. So your concept of good, your concepts are what they are. And so this is how you look at everything. You align it with what your concept is. And that's what we all do. Now, some people's concepts are lining up with what you would expect. See, yours don't line up with what you would expect because it's outside of the norm. And I'm going to get to that in a second. So self-esteem, not too bad. I'm not even going to go over that. Role awareness. So you were in social role transitioning, questioning, you knew what to do, but you were trying to figure out what needed to be changed, adjusted, or fixed in what you were currently doing. So you were transitioning. And then your self-direction. This is all about where are you going, your goals, your future. You clearly knew where you wanted to go, and you were doing everything in your power to get there. So this is a high level of commitment. And so I'm pretty sure I know where I'm going, and I'm committed to arriving there. That's where you were 5 years ago.
Yep.
Now you want to pay close attention to what I'm about to show you here. And I sent you your reports. So the first one we're going to look at is the IBO, or the TARP graph. This is our updated version of the behaviors. And holy crap, dude. You were a 98 anger 5 years ago. You're a 55 right
Is
now.
that normal, dude? This seems like a lot to me.
Dude, there's another person I know that has gone through 2.5 years of therapy, including MDMA, these different kinds of things. And their brain is different. They come to me and open their arms and say, hey, man, love you. Okay. I'm like, who are you? And what did you do with so-and-so? Like, we're talking complete brain change. This is what I'm looking at. Your optimism, which before was a 41-70.
I'm more optimistic now than I was?
You're way more optimistic. So here's what you're doing. Let me explain what optimism is, because it might not be what you think. Optimism is opportunity. It's the child in the back seat of your car going, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Like that. It's an optimistic outlook where you are connecting with the people around you and expecting good in some way. It's like having a large windshield. It's very futuristic in your thinking. It's where are we going? What are we doing? What is next? How's that going to be? And then imagining good things about it. So you imagine and then you make. So imagining is in the optimism. Making is in the anger or the dominance. Now, when you adapt for your day-to-day and interaction with other people, you change. So graph 2 is your unconscious self. It's just you, without interactions with other people or demands, requirements, and requests coming from outside sources. It's just you. And you're optimistically driven. And it's moderate. It's perfect. When you get to work and you start working on your day-to-day stuff, your anger goes up to an 86, not a 98. 86, your optimism remains at a 59. So this is the visionary. So you got a very strong visionary perspective of the world. So you, in the beginning, when you were core dominance, that's adult attachment.
Right.
Okay, that's like fucked up. All right, just to be honest. And now you look like you're not. So if I didn't know you at all and your graph came through, I wouldn't think, okay, I got to look for some issues here because I know they're going to show up in these other graphs. I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, okay, I see this a lot in entrepreneurs and things like that. So you've gone from an anomaly in behavior to normal, because there is normal in all this, and you're there. You're right in the middle of it. So I don't know what you're doing or what you did. I know what it did and what's happened. Now, this could have something to do with having children, for sure, having a family. Needs change, visions change. A lot of, now there's other people that are part of your equation. They're innocent people, right? All these different things. So you have really, to be honest, Tucker, you've done like a 180 based on this. Now, I want to look at the IMO. Remember, your power was a 79, 53. You can take it or leave it now.
Well, when you say power, what do you mean, like attachment to things, like an emotional attachment?
So power means I need authority equal to or greater than my responsibility. I need to be in charge of something. I need to be in charge of my own space. And if you enter my space, I'm in charge of you now.
Oh, yeah.
That's high power. You've gone from that to, you know what? That's his job. He can take care of it. Rather than, what are you doing? Why are you doing it like that?
Yeah.
You're just like, you know what? I'm okay. I'm good. So you're not extended in your control. You're normal. What is, normal look like? Well, you're right within half the country on the positive end, where you're higher than 50 on 100 scale. Okay. The average people in the country are between, I'd say, 45 and 60. You're a 53. So you're with the rest of the world now, rather than being otherworldly when it comes to power. You're probably, I'm going to imagine, a lot easier to get along with.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because you're not in charge of me when I'm with you, without me realizing it. Now, you are a freedom seeker. You actually right now look like your brain is in prison and you're trying to get paroled.
What do you mean?
Okay, here's what I mean by that. You desire freedom and autonomy. According to your numbers, is likely even more important than money.
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
So if you're making money, it's so you can be more free and autonomous, not so you can be wealthy.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true.
Okay, so your freedom, which is individualism, you want to be I want to be me, doing what I want, when I want, however I want, wearing whatever I want. You're a 78. Okay, so this makes also for great presenters. Like, you have a good presenter's profile now. Get up on stage and present well, engage a crowd.
Did I not before? Or it's just even better now?
It's better than it was before. Before, you were commanding. Now you're inviting.
Yeah. No, that's true.
It's an aura change. Now, your typical creative, which is typical Austin, Boulder, and Vermont. So you are a creative, and your sacrifice levels is a 35, which means you're willing to sacrifice, but not to everyone and everything. So you will notice when someone's not pulling their own weight. But if you see me working and doing everything in my power to be the best that I can be, you will be willing to help me. But if you see me goofing off, not paying it, you're like, you know what? Why am I more interested in your career than you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's what happens there. So you're willing to sacrifice some things, but only to qualified personnel. Like, you got to qualify.
Yeah.
Okay. Now here's where it gets interesting. Your regulatory or your regulated thinking score is a 15 out of 100. This is the way things ought to be. Again, so this is complete and utter defiance. This means looking at the rules to determine their worthiness. We talked about that. This here, compared to the last time you did this, you were a 28 last time. Now, you're a 15. What does that mean? Well, you're even more picking and choosing the way that should be taken forward, in the way something should be done. So you have an inventor's profile. This is an innovator. So if I said to you, never pull the red handle while the fan is turning, your brain goes, why not?
Yeah.
You see, rather than, okay, let me write that down.
Yeah.
And then your theoretical has dropped down to a 59, when before it was in the high 90s. So you've basically relaxed on your learning, and now you're enjoying your freedom. It doesn't mean you don't learn. It's not all consuming right now. Probably because you're at the point now where you learn what you need to get to the next step rather than over-learning.
Yeah.
So you've balanced that out. Now, here's my favorite to get to, which is your new, I can't wait to say this, your new axiology scores. Now, you are what I call a type 3 unconventional. I've seen 2 in the last 5 years, and you're one of them.
Okay.
So 5 years. And I've only seen 2 of these. One was a gentleman from Toronto, and then there's you. So let me explain what that is. So you'll find this in your IV, V as in victory, your IVO report, page 5. And I'm going to look at your world scores. So the world scores basically mean the world around you. So in the world around you, what do you see? How clearly can you see it? And what is your brain bias concerning it? Now, the greatest effect out of all these things we're looking at, that's going to have on basically the people around you, the public, is your behavior. That's what's changed the most. This is how you evaluate things. This is how you run things through your filter, make decisions. What am I going to pay more attention to? It's not behavior. This is before your behavior gets a hold of things. It's an evaluation. So when you're looking at people and you're evaluating people, how clearly can you see and understand what a person is feeling and then how they're going to react to what you're about to do or say? We looked at that earlier, but it's a little different now. Your score axiologically is a 15, which means you came in at a 45 on paper here, which is basically, and it's unconventional. So this means when you're looking at human beings and you're trying to perceive what they're thinking and feeling, you're seeing things nobody else sees. In other words, when you're evaluating a person, like, hey, you're going to be working with Steve, he's a good guy. So your concept of good guy is X. And when you meet me, your brain starts to see where you fulfill X, but it's paying more attention to where you're not fulfilling it, where I'm not fulfilling it. So when you're looking at people, you see things most people don't see, and that's about 80-20. So 80% of what people are missing when they meet Steve, you see it.
Uh-huh.
Whatever that is, we don't know. But because you see outside of the box, you're looking at things other people aren't paying attention to. So it's a creative view. It's a very creative view. So you might, you could have a bunch of people in your company interview a guy, and they're all like, I don't know. You interview and go, I don't know why aren't you hiring this guy? Like that. It's like that. You would see something no one else is seeing. Now, when you're evaluating people, you're 60% negative, you're 40% positive, which means 60% of your energy is looking to where they don't line up to your concept of good guy. And then 40% of your energy is looking at where they do line up. So you're going to become increasingly difficult to take advantage of because of this.
Yeah.
Because you see it coming, probably even before I do, and I'm the one bringing it.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, no, it does. It does.
Okay, so your gut instincts are probably, when it comes to people, really good. Now, your focus is on what's wrong with them, not what's right. But you're not so over-focused. You're 60-40. That's okay. All right, the next thing, when it comes to what to do and when to do it. So when you're looking at what needs to be done in order to reach this particular target, you're unconventional again, which means you're seeing more than everyone else is seeing. So how do I describe that to people? It's like everyone else is looking through plate glass. You're looking through a prism. You see a rainbow. No one else does. And you're all looking at the same thing. So when it comes to what needs to be done, you're looking at different things than the mainstream public is going to look at. So again, very creative, out of the box approach. So unconventional styles can be whimsical, spontaneous, revolutionary. They can be genius, unrealistic, out of the box, or provocative.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve Jobs was unconventional, likely a type 3. Okay, now he was so unconventional that on his first job, they sent him home because he didn't shower. We're like, we want you to work from home. We don't want to get rid of you. You're so smart, but you don't bathe, so you can't work here.
Yeah.
You got to work from home. I mean, that's what it was like. He didn't see it. Right? So that's way out of the box. But what he saw in what he was creating, nobody else saw. Okay. So you got the same shenanigans going on, not the bathing part, probably, but the unconventionality about seeing what we should do to reach this result and no one else is seeing it, unless you have unconventionals.
Yeah, it's fucking frustrating, dude. I've been like this a long time.
Yeah. Okay. That's right. So here's what you need to understand is this. Who else out there is like you that could help you? They're not there. They're your dead on competition that you're trying to figure out how to beat. That's who they are. Okay. These people don't typically work for anyone.
Yeah. No, it's true.
They can't. Right. So they do their own thing. And then they're frustrated because the same thing that happened in the world, I can't work for anyone because no one will have me. And I can't work with anyone because nobody understands me. Right? That's the dynamic that can be created. But once you understand what's actually going on, you know what somebody told me many years ago? Steve, if you want to grow, you have to settle for less. And I was like, what? They said, absolutely. And this guy's company has grown a lot. And your expectations are not from Earth. Now, it's easy for you. It's just the way you are. But everybody else is probably looking at it and going, what? Remember Jobs? I want it so you just put your finger on the glass and everything changes. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. And you can't do that. Oh, yeah? Yes, we can. And watch us do it.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I had dinner the other night with some friends of mine who are all very, very successful. And they were like, I forget what we're talking about, but they're like, you guys do so much. And I'm like, I feel like we don't do anything.
Yeah, I know.
Like not literally, but like, I feel like, we barely get anything done.
Yes. But you see, your expectations compared to the normal population who's likely working, you talk about having 100 freelancers and all that, none of those people are likely close to this. All right. So basically, you're trying to win the Daytona 500 and you're looking out into the world and half the country are Toyota Camrys.
Yeah.
Okay. There's 36 profiles that can come across my desk. Half of them are only two. Two of the 36. What are they doing? They're all out there looking for work.
So half of people are basically exactly the same. They fall into two profiles.
They fall into two profiles and they're both passive.
Yeah, dude, I've never understood passive people. There are a lot of passive people. It makes no sense.
There are more passive people than anything else. 27% or so of the people won't tell you where they stand on the issue because they don't know what you're going to do, so they're afraid.
Wow.
This is the planet you happen to live on. Okay, so powerful understanding. Now, when you're thinking about what needs to be done in order to reach a targeted result, and let's say you're soliciting concepts and information from your crew, from people like, okay, every time they present something to you, you're 80% negative, 20% positive in your brain bias. So every time they present it, you're like, yeah, not that. Yeah, not that. Yeah, not that. Let me tell you why that's not going to work. Let me tell you why that's not going to work. So although you clearly see unconventionally at what needs to be done, when you start approaching the doing of that, your brain starts to seek to what's missing in what needs to be done. And so what that means is you become very distrusting of the normal way to do something.
Yeah.
The normal way to your brain is the wrong way. But I'd say 60 to 75% of people are going to bring you the normal way.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
See? So you don't have conventional resourcefulness. You don't have practical insight because you're from Neptune. Okay? You're like, I like to follow this guy named Bob Lazar. Now, according to what's out there, Bob Lazar worked at Area 51 at one point in his career and reverse engineered a flying saucer. Okay, I don't know if you follow that kind of thing, but it's crazy to watch. And there's new documentaries out there on this, coming to find out that some of the things he said in the 80s were true, like a new element in the table of elements on number 115. Everybody made fun of him. Well, now we have it. And so you're like that. You're like looking for number 115, and it's like, that ain't in our table of elements, dude. You're like, it's got to be. You see? And so you seek unconventional ways to do things so that it either speeds things up, cuts out all the fat, slims things down, gets you in a position to reap quicker in the world. And so your problem isn't you, it's everyone who's unlike you trying to help you. That's where the issues will come in. And then the other piece in your outer world scores is your structured thinking. Where's your clarity on this? 30 out of 100, which means, it's unconventional as well, but it's below clear, so unclear. Unclear and unconventional. This is when it comes to rules, structures, protocols. What is defined in no uncertain terms? Never pull the lever when that fan is running. Okay, those types of things. You're a nonconformist who overtly or covertly challenges everything you see and hear.
Yeah.
And so these are the innovators. The people that have done the most in the world challenged the status quo. And you'll see these comments on Facebook all the time. But those are the revolutionaries. Somebody like Jesus, right? He's unconventional. I'll eat whatever the hell I want on Sunday.
Yep.
Okay, that kind of thinking. It's very provocative. It's very willful. It can be disruptive. And you are a disruptor. And so very, very powerful here. Okay, that's a type 3, unconventional in empathy, unconventional in execution, and unconventional in planning. You don't plan. You just do. It's almost like you don't need to. I present a situation that can't be done. You tell me how it can be. That's the difference. You're not like, oh, what are we to do? You're like, give me a few minutes with this.
Yeah.
That's your thinking. All right. We're going to go into your inner world now. So self-esteem instead of empathy. So that's empathy in reverse. So empathy pointed towards yourself. How clearly can you see your own value? Pretty clear. You're 70 out of 100. You know your value in the world, but what you do is you look for what needs to be improved. You don't look at what's already improved.
Yeah.
You ignore it. Okay. And you're only looking at what needs improvement. Now, that can work for you in certain situations, but it works against you in other situations. And I'll get to that in a second.
Like what?
Yeah, I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay.
So role awareness, role fit. So this is what you're doing in the world. Basically, quote, why you are here. So what is your current role? What are you doing in your work? And you are 90% negative. So basically, right now, you're looking at, you're guarded and hesitant to act currently, and you're checking your self-development, likely checking your progress, checking things to see if you're still on track. Maybe you're starting to get anxious and restless. Well, you're a starter, not a finisher. So once things get up and going and clicking along and working, your brain starts to get bored. So it could be that. Lacking conviction that what you are doing currently is allowing you to access your best gifts and skills. Lacking certainty to, at this point in life, where you actually belong in the world or in your work. questioning whether or not you should keep doing certain things in your life or transfer or transition into something else. So you are still in a transitional mindset, which means typically you're mobile, you're a mover. So there's a party that's always in transition. You're always moving forward. So I get that. But you look like you're looking at current circumstances and going, you know what? I see what's wrong here, but I'm struggling to see what's right. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, you're saying that's how I am right now?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, man, because
it may not be work. It could be something else. It's work and it's called social role transitioning. So it could be social, which is just life, or it could be particular role.
Yeah, 3 months ago, I'm not sure that would have been totally true, but like the last week to month-ish, it's really, really because it's like basically the company's gotten to the point now where it's like it's pretty stable and like our growth for the next 5 years is going to be pretty extreme, but it's not really going to require me. Like I've laid all the foundation and I've done all the stuff. Me and the team, not just me, but the stuff that the team needs from me is pretty much all. It's 60 to 85% done right now. And what's left is like pretty straight ahead and straightforward. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that's exactly what I'm reading here. So you're looking at your current, again, this changes. It could change in 2 weeks. It could change in a month, right? All of a sudden, maybe you add a new something to what you're already doing, and then you're up and getting that thing up and going, and now your juices are looking at what's positive about the current role.
Yeah.
So right now, this is where you are. You're kind of waiting to see, where should I go? What should I do now that fill in the blank? Now, here's what's interesting. So your goals, your vision of the future is not super clear. So what are you going to be doing in a year, 5 years, or 2 years? You probably don't know, but you're 80% committed to it.
Huh.
So what happens is, okay, so your self-care, which is your self-esteem score, your role fit, which is, okay, both of those, you've got negative attention, negative brain bias in those. You're looking at what's wrong with those things, what's not where it should be, or what's not where I should be, these types of things. But then when you get to what's coming up, what's next, you reverse everything. So all your energy is in the future. In the future, I'll be a better person. In the future, I'll have a better role. So now, remember I said earlier that can work for you, but sometimes it can work against you. Now I'm going to go back to that statement. Let's say, now you're a futuristic thinker anyway, because you have active emotions in play, which are anger and optimism. Patience and fear are not active emotions, they're passive emotions. So you don't have those in play. So you rely on anger and optimism to move in the world. They're both future because they're both what's next and did we get it done yet? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're all windshield, no rear view mirror.
Right.
That being said, in your axiological scores here, you're also very future oriented. And what that means is, if I'm going to be a better person and I'll have these things that I know need to be improved on in 6 months, that's the goal. So let's speed it up. 6 months just arrived. Today is the 6-month period. You're in the present now. Well, your brain is not in the present. So what you were expecting 6 months ago, you get here, it's not here because it's not the future. So you look into the future and go, oh, it's over there. And so you start thinking about what's next, where am I going? What am I going to do? Like that. So you start going after something you actually will never be able to catch. That's what happens. When you are future-brained in your behavior and future-brained in your values, then you're valuing what isn't yet. And every time you arrive, it's the present, so it's still not here. It's only coming. It's not arrived. So what does that look like? If I said to you, Tucker, you are amazing at fill in the blank. Your brain starts to go to what you don't think you're amazing at. You might say, yeah, whatever. But here's what I'm really working on. You may not even say this, but this is what you might think. If you invited me over for supper and you made spaghetti and I said, wow, this is like the best spaghetti sauce I've ever had, your brain might automatically go, dang it, I should have added a little more oregano to that. Like that. It's always looking for what needs improvement, not what doesn't.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true.
Because if you focus on what doesn't need improvement, you will feel lazy and irresponsible, and you will feel like you're not making an impact in the world.
Yeah.
You don't rest on your laurels, right? You're always improving. Now, here's a revelation. Intrinsic value, which is being measured in self-esteem, cannot be improved. It doesn't scale. You can't scale it. That's why if the baby falls down a well, we spend whatever we got to spend to get the baby out. It's not a football. It's a baby. So we're got to get that baby out of there. So this happened to Jessica McClure in 1987. She fell in a well in Midland, Texas.
I remember. Oh, I totally remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. 58 hours trying to get her out. And when they got her out, they held her up and everybody cheered. And it's like a real tearjerker to watch on YouTube.
Yep.
They weren't like, that baby's a consumer, not a contributor. Why are we digging a second hole? I know we were a little off on the first one, but this is starting to cost a lot of money here. Like if anybody did that, they'd be a sociopath, right? So it doesn't matter if she had a pacifier or a PhD. Her worth as a human can't scale. It's always worth saving, right? What happens with you probably in your brain, this isn't something you're dwelling on, but it's just automatic probably. Like let's say you screw something up. Your brain's like, Tucker, get back in the well, like that. Rather than, well, I did this, this, and this though. You're like, no, what stands out is what you didn't do, right? So what the brain does is it has to set up a system of rewards and punishments that are invisible, that no one knows about, that we live by. And what you do is you set an impossible standard for yourself and then you never reach it. So all this energy is going into fixing something that you should just accept. And now where can I put that energy? So you got 3 energy sources. You got self-care energy, you've got work care energy, and you've got future energy. You've got all negative energy in self and work and all your positive energies in your future, which isn't here.
I mean, it sounds like it sounds like a recipe for misery, dude.
Well, it's not a recipe for misery because you could be doing fine, but you don't know what you're missing. You see? Your brain doesn't know what it's missing. All I'm saying is when I say, wow, you did a really good job at that, what do you immediately start thinking about?
What can I prove?
Right. Yeah. But that's not what I'm complimenting. Why did you move from what I said to something else that's negative?
Because I know I've got that shit right. I got to go fix what's wrong. I mean, I know that, man. You don't have to tell me that. I know that.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, if I said, wow, you're really good at that, I'm not interested in what you're doing wrong. I'm interested in you and I'm noticing some great things and I'm pointing it out, but you're shifting the attention in your own mind to what isn't great. That's not good. But it's been your catalyst for years, right? But I'm just saying, what would it be like if somebody said, wow, you're really excellent at that? You said, yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, so what?
And then that's it.
Well, aside from sounding a little douchey, to say, yeah, I know I'm great.
Okay, why would you sound douchey? Here's why. 84% of people are thinking just like you. So if 84% of the population thinks most of what they're doing is shit, and somebody says, I ain't got shit, they think there's something wrong with that person. And we view it negatively. We view people that are confident and happy that they're really good at something as egocentric, because most of the country thinks they're shit and don't say anything about it. They're just constantly trying to improve it. That's where we are in the world right now. And so I'm just saying, that if you focused your attention on what you have done and not what you haven't done, it would be an improvement in your personal life existence. You just don't know that.
Like how? What kind of improvement? What do you mean?
Well, when we feel really good about who we are in the world, we're able to really make other people feel good about who they are. When we don't feel good about who we are in the world, we struggle to make other people feel good about who they are because we've never done it. We don't know how to do it. And human beings in work and in life will always treat another human being solely based on how they perceive that person is thinking about them. If I'm constantly looking in my life for what's missing, I will be looking in your life for what's missing because that's what I do. That's how I look at life. But what if I start looking at your life and look what's present? And then that's what I talk about. Now what happens? See, this is how it improves.
What happens?
Well, what happens when we do that is we cause people to want to do something as a knee-jerk reaction to the affirmed feelings that they're feeling. This is how people operate. So if I meet with you and all I'm talking about is what you're doing, and I'm not trying to tell you what I'm doing in the world, let's say, and I'm not saying you don't do that. I'm just saying if all I'm doing is focusing on you and the things that you've done well, then you feel good when you are with me. Now, when we are together and I'm thinking about what I've done that's positive, then I'm feeling good too. And when we're feeling good together, then there's a greater amount of synergy in that than there is in thinking about everything that's missing. Now, when you're a doing style, like all you do is do, this makes sense the way you do it. But if you are a doer and, which you're doing now, you've got this big connecting piece going on, you are now focusing on everything that's present and nothing that's missing. Usually the missing takes care of itself. It's sort of like if I'm searching for my destiny, the odds of me catching it are slim. But if I'm confident and I am satisfied with who and where I am in the world in a healthy way, then the destiny tends to show up a whole lot quicker. And this is over years of running analysis on people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. It's called like Wu Wei in Chinese. There's a lot of different, every major thought like paradigm has essentially the indirect way to get to the direct solution is usually the best.
Yes. Yeah. So here's something that happens. I don't know what you do if you ever go out to lunch with a friend or a colleague or whatever. If you go out to lunch, my guess is when the tab comes, you pay it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, of course, right? What would it do to your brain if you incorporated a 90-second rule? You didn't look at it or touch it for 90 seconds, and if somebody else picked it up, then that's who pays. What would you feel like in a moment like that? And then when they pick it up, you look at them and go, hey, man, I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. This is my year to learn that I'm worth that.
I'm not even going to try and pay? I mean, that's kind of fucked up though, man.
Yep. Yeah. So let me ask you another question. Let's say you eat lunch with me. Let's say I go down there and meet up with you and we go to lunch. And then when the tab comes, I reach for it. You do or say nothing, right? You just sit there and let me pay, correct?
I mean, I would at least.
Or are you already plotting before it's there? I'm just trying to get nailed down what's going on here.
Okay, so I used to definitely be like almost like I have to pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
More recently, I've not thought too much about it, but I like I will never not offer. Like I'll always offer. That's
I know, but why?
Polite, because it's basic polite. I mean, why would I expect you to pay for my food?
Listen, hold on a minute. I didn't say I expect you to pay for my food. I said, what if I wanted to pay the tab? What if I want to pay for your food?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so if you offer, like, I'm gonna say, "Look, are you sure?" I'm more than happy to split it. If you say, "No, no, I really wanna pay," I'd be like, "Okay, cool." Like, I'm not gonna fight you on it, you know?
I understand, but see, this is what drilling is all about. I want you to see what's probably really going on, right? Your brain's like, there is no way I'm going to be that guy, like letting other people pay for my food, right? Who is that guy?
No, hold on. It's less letting other people pay. It's I don't want to be the type of person that mooches. Like, I don't like mooching on them.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Here's the deal. You're not a mooch.
Yeah, I know, but I know.
I know. No, you don't. You are not a mooch. And I know that because I'm looking at it. You're not a mooch, and you don't ever want to be even the hint that you're a mooch, because you're trying to always focus on what you're not. And you're like, I'm not a mooch, and I'm going to prove it by doing this. Because typically, and this is what people don't understand, people that tend to be the check picker upper don't want to look like a mooch. It has nothing to do with the other people. You think it does. It's the post hoc story that we create to justify.
It has to do with,
huh?
I mean, no.
Yes.
It has to do with
Okay,
yourself.
so here's what I'm saying.
Of course. It has to do with yourself, of course.
Yes. What you're doing in that moment with the check is telling people who you're not.
Obviously, everything we do is about telling the world what we are, telling ourselves a story about who we are. Yeah, I get that.
But we already know that if we know you. You don't have to do that. But you see, your gas pedal there is probably stuck to the floor. So the point I'm making is, let's say you just implemented a personal rule for yourself. From now on, whenever I go out to eat, this is just part of making a brain change. What I'm going to do is incorporate a 90-second rule. If somebody picks that up, I'm going to thank them for it. And that's the end of that. And I'm going to just move on. And then someone will pick it up. Someone won't. Someone will pick it up. Someone won't. And now we're back to normal. But if you're like, I better grab that before so they don't think I'm a mooch. See, that's all the wrong motivation. And you're instilling in your mind that you're just not there yet. You still don't want to be seen as that mooch. Now you've resolved the issue. I'm not a mooch. They know I'm not a mooch. I know I'm not a mooch. So why am I trying to put forth efforts to prove that I'm not? Just quit it and then put your energy somewhere else. And then you will be healthier. And now it changes everything. But the changes are subtle, and it'll take time, and then all of a sudden it's going to be something that you are now not thinking about. And now you've released that energy to other stuff. That's what I'm talking about. And I always use the check thing because it's very effective. Because people think I'm crazy. What are you saying? You're telling me I can't pay? What kind of person is that? Well, we already established you're not that person. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You see? But you see what's happening. What the brain does, it never verifies if what it's doing is true. It justifies how it feels when it's doing it, and then creates a story to line up with the feeling. That's how everybody does it. And all I'm saying is your story about you still could use great improvement. And when it comes to who you are and what you do in the world. And if you reconciled it, I think whatever level you're on, you could go to a whole nother one by that one thing.
No, I'm with you. So I'm totally with you. What other ways can you see in the charts or whatever? What other ways the story is, let's say, suboptimal that I tell myself?
Yeah. So when it comes to again in the self scores, so this is called inner direction, by the way. You're not outer directed at all. You're inner directed. I'm answering your question here. So how do we optimize this? Like, what does outer directed look like?
Okay.
It's more of a reliance on exterior sources, which are people, things, and ideas about people and things around us. Okay. Reliance on that more than self-reliance. Okay. And so an inner directed score favors the demands of the inner world over the outer world, which includes other people's wants, desires, needs, the way other people would like something to be done, and things like this. Inner-directed people don't go to the outside source before making a decision. They make the decision based upon the inside source. So outer-directed people have a subservient position to the world, which includes the people in it and the rules about it. So never pull that lever while the red fan is riding, while the fan's turning. Okay, let me write that down so I don't forget. Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's outer-directed. Okay, inner-directed is, never pull the fan. Like, now, Mon, who are you and why are you telling me that? Number 3, why? What's the big deal? Da-da-da-da-da-da. Like this isn't spoken necessarily, but this is what starts happening. So now, if I don't push back, I'm not being true to myself.
Yeah.
But who says there needs to be pushback? Like, how do we balance this out? And over the years you've been alive, you may or may not have had difficulty building, forging, and keeping strong relationships. And the ones you do are the people that have the highest degree of tolerance for your type. And those are the people you will go to war with, right? You probably have a few of those. But then you're the nominal everyday people. Inner-directed people tolerate them.
Yeah.
More than they're able to embrace it or embrace them as part of life. Like you said earlier on, I started talking about how people are different and how this is how most people act. And you were like, yeah, it's fucking frustrating. You see what that statement was? It's like, here's how most of the world is, but it isn't lining up with what I need. So it's a big frustrated thing. Versus, okay, how do I negotiate that? How do I negotiate most people being passive, slower, and more thoughtful in their work? Just because they're wired like that. Now what do I do? Okay, now that question puts you in an outer-directed position, which is like washing your feet with your socks on. Like you're never there. Right. Usually. It's work. So what do? We avoid it if we can, because the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line for dominant people. See, and so that's how that works. So if you're talking about what can I improve? Well, okay, not looking at what needs to be improved for you would actually be an improvement.
Why?
Which probably sounds crazy.
It does, but I'm willing to entertain it. But why? Why would that be an improvement?
Well, okay, it's an improvement in the whole scheme of things. But here's what's happening. Here's why, again, your clarity, this is about clarity, your ability to perceive and see something. So when I talk to you about something I saw that you've done that's really great, you begin to look at what isn't so great and what needs to be improved. And you see that as an improvement.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because you're trying to improve what needs improvement, right? So in that respect, you are correct. That is an improvement. But there's another improvement, one that you largely ignore, which is when I say, wow, you're really good at that. And you just say, well, I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you. And then if your brain starts to think, well, what needs improvement? You're like, that's not what I'm thinking about right now. I'm resting and relaxing in the idea that, and when it comes to this, I'm here. This is not future. This is present. And now you can relax in it and embrace it for what it is. So that's an emotional improvement. It's not a physical improvement where now I've got more money in the bank. It's an emotional improvement. And the more emotionally improved a person is, the better they are at everything they do. So you can be really good, but you can always be really, really good if you've got the inner world and the outer world running at optimum, not just one world. It's called balance is the key to life. Oxygen in, carbon dioxide out. Some people, if they're just inner directed, you're just breathing in. You can only do that for so long. Being able to receive and understand where you have done well and accept it for what it is, and that doesn't need improvement, and relaxing and focusing on it and thinking about that and being happy about that. And then where there's other things, sure, it doesn't mean neglect everything in your life that needs improvement. It means stop making that king. That's all. That's it. And then what happens is you will start to relax. Now, I worked with a guy on this for 2 years. And this guy, he worked from sun up to sundown. I'm talking nuts. He takes naps now. And then he'll call me. He's like, you won't believe what I did today. I took a nap and didn't think I was a shit for doing it. He said, this life, he goes, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to think. I'm afraid I'm going to get totally lazy now. Like that. He was just giddy. And it's because he's finally started taking care of him a little bit instead of everything that he sees that's broke. And so happiness, joy, these things started to really come in strong. And then when he went through some extra therapy, he had a brain scan in St. Louis a year ago, had another one, looks like a different person, totally different person. And I told him something that was happening with me, something I was doing, something on creating the potential and something I had done and what happened. He's like, I'm going to tell you, Steve, right now, 3 years ago, I would have been so friggin' jealous right now. I would have started thinking about what I could do to up that or to top that or this. Like, this is how he was thinking. But he couldn't enjoy my success without looking at his own and saying, why aren't I doing this? Why aren't I doing that? He was so occupied with it. Now it's like he doesn't care. And he's hugging people. It's crazy. But this is where he was all inner directed and now he's outer directed. Let me tell you what happened in his empathy scores. They went from 100% negative to 100% positive in 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And now everybody wants to be around him. He's dancing at discos now. Wearing sparkly elevator shoes. I've never seen anything like it. Now that's a little extreme, but he's making up for lost time because of the way his home life was. He was like the breadwinner at 15.
Yeah.
And it was just go, 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 go. And you're a shit if you don't. Go, 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 go. You're a shit if you don't. And then he married a woman. Go, go, go. I'm divorcing you if you don't.
Yeah.
Because he needed that. Now he's like, oh my God, what a world. What a world. What is he doing right now? Nothing. He sold a bunch of his properties and he's taken big cruises. He's enjoying the world. He doesn't know what to do with himself. Now that's an extreme case of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but it is. But like the first question I want to ask you is like, well, what do I do with all this info? Like, how do I use it to get better? Which of course is kind of the antithesis of what you just told me.
Here's all you need to do. Okay, not everything is an opportunity to get better. Some things are an opportunity to look at what I've done. What I've created in the world. How many people, look at the families that have work and are employed because of you, because of your unconventionality, your risks, your drive, right? Are you ever able to bask in that and enjoy that? Or are you too busy trying to do more? What would your answer be to that?
Come on. We know what the answer is. Of course I'm busy trying to do more.
Right. You see? So all I'm saying is, I think what would be good for you, you don't ever...
Sorry, I'm not sure I understand.
I kicked off Siri there. You don't really have to... you're a doer, and that's great, and you're doing great things. But what if you decided to take just a small bite of time out, maybe once a month? Maybe you do this, maybe you don't. If it's once a month you do it, maybe you need to up it. Where you're really not doing anything for anyone. You're maybe looking to enjoy what you've already done. And what does that look like? I don't know. Ask your wife. Maybe she could tell you. Like maybe it's something with her or a family thing. Or maybe you do that. But the point I'm making is you're right now very heavy on one side. And you've learned to really enjoy doing that. So you don't really know anything else. And you're successful and these different things. So there's positives that are all coming from it. So the brain is like, why visit something if it isn't broken? Why am I trying to fix it? So I'm not saying you're broken here. I'm just saying if you want improvements that you don't even know could be made, this is where you would have to do it. So if you were just a client that called and said, I need some coaching, my life's going crazy, I got so much going on, and I've had several of those recently. I focus on self-care and roll fit. That's it. Out of everything we looked at, that's the only thing we would focus on. And it would be like you learning to accept yourself as is, not as you think you should be. That's the only thing I would focus on for 3 months. That's it.
Self-care and roll fit, meaning like how I treat myself, how I think about myself, the story I tell myself about myself, and then what exactly I spend my day doing.
Yes. All your available time. Yep. That's it. And if they're a little out of whack, we just straighten them out a little bit, tweak it. And then when you do that, think about a barrel of wine, and the slats that make up that barrel are at all different kinds of heights. Okay. Now you got some slats that are all the way up to the top because you've got some real strong, powerful assets here. But you have some slats that are really low. What is that? Self-care is one of them. That's a low slat. So when you start putting wine in the barrel, where does it leak out? Lowest slat. But you pour wine in your barrel at such a heavy rate, you don't notice it coming out. Right? So if I focused on, here's a low slat, you're like, what the hell? Yep, that's a low slat. If you want to improve anything, now, a lot of coaches out there, they're going to like come up with some typical things that you're going to be all excited about doing, but no one's excited about this, which is why no one does it. Some do, but that's kind of relegated to therapy and that kind of a world. But this isn't like that. This is just you focusing on where are you lacking attention in your self world, and then beefing that up. And then in the outer world, where are you not relying on something else or someone else or something, or submitting or something like that? And what would it look like if you did? Here's what that looks like. If you have a person working with you or for you, and you walk in there and you're talking to them and they did something you wanted them to do, and you look at it and it's really good, and you say, you know what, dude, I'm going to stop and take a moment right here. This is why I hired you. This right here. This is why I hired you. When I need this, I submit to you, your functional authority here, because you bring it, man. And I just wanted to say that. Wow. Thank you. Right. And then you walk out. Now, what happens to that person? Right. A lot starts to happen inside of that person, because odds are good. They've got low self-esteem. Odds are really good. 84% have low self-esteem. Now, what is that person going to do? Everything in their power to please you and to help you and be a part of what you're trying to do, like that. And so now you're not doing this every day, but when you see something, you notice it, you kind of submit to them in that area because that's what they do. And you acknowledge it verbally. You talk about it and you make that settle into their mind a little bit. And then you're like, we good? Okay. I just wanted to say that, whatever. And you walk out. And now all of a sudden there's a dynamic there that didn't exist before, and it's going to be positive. And then now what's going to happen is that person is going to, statistically, they could kick it up 11 to 17% more than they're already doing, simply because what I'm doing is recognized and appreciated. And I'm not saying you don't recognize and appreciate people. I'm sure you do. But how are you doing it? Right? That's the difference. And you may be doing that. And if so, then we don't even need to talk about it. But typically with styles like this, they're not good at that. They never think of that. Yeah. They're like, I hired them to do that. That's what they do.
I'm much better than I used to be, but I'm still not good at that at all.
Yeah. So look, I'm seeing a lot of changes. We talked about that early on, but those are the type things I'm talking about. So, and again, this call wasn't about what you need to fix. This call was just looking at the changes you've made and how cool it is that, you've got some real behavior change over the last 5 years. So change can happen for sure. And then how that's worked out, in your life.
Yeah, I mean, but like that's all. It's funny. The thing you're talking about, like that I need to fix, is that literally, like that's the question. All this stuff is cool, but my question is always, what do I do with it? Like how is it? It's not that it's irrelevant, but how is it actionable?
But well, again, that always depends on what you're doing, who you're doing it with, who you're doing it for, and how you're doing it. That's. So here's you. We looked at you. This is you. How's that working out? And you would be able to say to me, really well, or it's working out well here, but it doesn't seem to be working
Dude,
here.
I can sum up really simply, and it's funny because I think I'm at the beginning of doing at least definitely one of the things you talked about. I've really, even though I'm so bad at it, I've really tried to surrender to stuff and to stop trying to orchestrate and push things into existence, right?
Yes.
But the big thing that's come up for me in the last 3 to 6 months is I feel I've improved a lot over the last immensely over the last 5 years, but I feel like I've reached almost the top of a phase, right? And like in physics, it's not to have a phase change, you almost have to have more energy than is required just to go through a normal sort of change. Like you have to have that extra piece to burst you through a phase. Like water to gas, et cetera, et cetera. And so I feel like I'm on the precipice of a phase shift, but it's not going to be an easy phase shift, and it's one that's drastically different than how I've been almost my entire life. And then I've got to I can stay where I am for a long, long, long time and be perfectly happy, I guess, or perfectly successful. But I feel like very clearly there's a big, big, big phase above me that if I can get into, there's so much stuff there for whatever impact and whatever stuff I've done before, I think will honestly pale in comparison. But all the changes I have to make are internal, not external.
That's right. I would agree with that. You're right. So what can you change internally so you can go through the ride of your life? Well, I think it would be lightening up on yourself, number one. And number two, trusting yourself more than you do.
What do you mean? I mean, I know what the phrases mean, but
so trusting yourself. Some people are distrusting by nature. What do you mean by that? Thinking, rather than, oh, great. Or hey, you got to hire this guy. He's like, I can sell anything. You're like, oh God. Okay. What does that mean? Rather than, oh, we need one of those guys. Like that. Okay. So you have an apprehension. It's a distrusting side. I have it too. And so when we're like that, typically we do the same thing to ourselves because we see people not as they are, but as we are. And so what I would suggest there for going forward is to focus on the self-care, this area of contentment, happy with what you've done and excited about what could be, but not laying crazy demands on yourself to make sure you bring it. Odds are good. You would still do a lot because of the way you view the world. You're so unconventional that it would be eventual, not immediate, because you're better in the instant than you are the constant. And so you're better at a 100-yard dash than you are a marathon. And so if you're getting up for a marathon, you don't want 100-yard dash it and then be done, and then you got more to go. So how can you do this without trying to be the 100-yard dash person? Start to, this sounds terrible. I'm imagining how you're going to think when I say this, knowing your style, but lessen the goal, drop that down a little bit to something very reasonable. Give yourself permission to relax into what you want to do. Take time to, sounds crazy, but sometimes do nothing. And enjoy what you currently have over what you want to get. Dominant people sees the world as having more than they have, and then there's a drive to get it. It's called taking. And it's not good or bad. It's just how they do things. So just kind of relaxing that a little bit, like putting the governor on it. let's say.
I know, man. It makes me fucking anxious to listen to what you're saying too.
I know, because that's what's gonna bring the greatest result.
Yeah, but like I'm emotionally mature enough at this point to know if I'm getting anxious at what you're saying, it's where I need to turn into.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Well, I know. I mean,
Yeah.
you're a dragster, and I'm talking a VW Beetle, and you're like, you have got to be kidding me. You call that a car? That's what your brain does. And again, this can be you're young. This could be a 36-month project.
It's funny you say that, man, because one of my friends who knows me really, really well, who actually she reminds me of you. Like I'm not sure how much I believe in psychicness or all that stuff. I'll tell you, I believe in it a lot more after the last year of doing psychedelics. But I had no belief in it about 18 months ago. Now I'm like, hold on, there might be something here. But she reminds me of you, just in that, like, it's almost like take everything you do and strip away all of the tests and the psychometrics and stuff, and just get someone who's a seer into people. She's like that, right?
Yes.
And the thing she said to me is, it's going to take you about 18 months or 2 years to work through this. But if you do, everything you want is on the other side of it.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Yep. Yeah. What's the first step in something like that? It's actually finding a space to sit down with somebody there with you, maybe your wife or a really close friend or something like that. And then you just take 5 to 10 minutes and outline what you believe you need to do, or what you have to start focusing on. And then after that, you say, and you know what? I'm marking the date. Let's say it's September 17th. And it's 3:51 in the afternoon. And I'm going to say it here and now. I am willing to take this journey. That's it. That's the first step. And now maybe you won't visit that for a week, but you just said, I'm willing to go. That's it.
Yeah. No, I'm willing to go. Like, I already know this is, you're like the third person who's told me something close enough to this. You're just way more precise and dialed in and systematic about it. And like, I've felt like this for a while.
Yeah. You see, you're smart. And this is why smart people that are doing crazy things, I fail to worry about. It's the stupid people doing crazy things that I'm scared of.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know. I don't know how much is intelligence, man. I think a lot more of it is self-awareness, and those two things are not always connected, dude.
True. I failed math, right? I mean, I can't take a test if my life depended on it. I actually took some free classes at Yale online and failed. I just can't. And it's in my environment. It's in my work. I can't take a test. I freeze. I've been doing that since 7th grade. But yet, I'm very successful in what I'm doing, and I'm creating tools and everything, but I can't take a test. Like, what gives? And so it's just a different kind of smart. And I have unconventionalities as well. So, I just think you now have enough evidence. You've got 3 witnesses now that have said this would be good for you. And all you have to do is say you're willing, which you just did. And now, I think it sounds so freaking woo-woo, but it's like, okay, as soon as you do that, it will make its way towards you. You don't have to move.
Well, that's part of what you just told me, is not move towards it. It's like, come to you, like, no, yeah. I'll tell you, the big thing that I read it about 6 months ago that really started me thinking this way was, everyone knows the book The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. It's like a really famous. I read the book. I'm like, I read that like 3 years ago. I'm like, like, it was okay, but it was just another dude John about Buddhism and meditation, right? But then I read the Surrender Experiment that he wrote, which is like all of the stuff he talks about in Untethered Soul. He actually he's telling you what to do. Surrender Experiment, he tells you what he did. It's like literally it's almost like an autobiography, except it's not all the BS. It's just like how he basically decided to surrender to life And the dude ended up building, like, his only goal was to like sit in the woods and meditate all day, and ended up building like $1 billion company and all this crazy stuff. And like, and I was like, but reading it, I was like, oh my God, like it made total sense, like every bit of it, you know? And it's all the same things you just said, like pretty much just in a different way.
Yeah. So just let that kind of be a guide, right? And just realize, okay, this journey is going to be unlike any journey I've ever taken, but that's a good thing. And now I'm going to be more inwardly aware. Externally, I'm going to calm that down a little. And I'm going to see what it is I already have and embrace and enjoy those things. You see, it goes back to even what is this? I think this was a statement in the New Testament where it says, it talks about, faithful with what you have, then it qualifies you to have some more. It talks about being faithful to that which belongs to somebody else. It qualifies you to have your own. And then when you put your own energy to work, that kind of talk. And that's,
dude, you know what they killed? Well, I mean, like, I'm not a biblical scholar, but one of the main reasons they killed Jesus is because he said the summary of what you just said is the kingdom of heaven is within.
Yes.
Right, which is more his critique of organized religion.
Yes, the temple and all how they ran
exactly, the money changers and all that. But my point is just like every major like sage and in history, Buddha, Rumi, Jesus, go through the list. They all said that. They all said some version of everything you need is within if you will surrender to it and search for it and let it come up.
That's exactly right. See, your destiny is yet to come because you're kind of a doer. So you're like a chaser. So I could look at your score, all your energy is in your future. None of your energy is in the present. That's negative energy in the present. But all your positive energy is in the future because you're a doer. Your internal worth comes from what you can accomplish in some way, shape, or form. That's just how it works. So people like you that lose their job or their ability to work go into a depression because they can't fall back on, well, at least I'm awesome and I've done all this up to now. Like that's not good enough for those people.
Yeah.
So when you now start focusing on, okay, what have I built? What have I done? What does it look like? And say, wow. And you start to appreciate that and look at that and that kind of thing and appreciate the time that you have available. Some people can't even take a day off. They can't even have a $500 unexpected bill. They're sunk.
Yeah.
Like, look where you are, right? So when you start looking at that and now you're embracing that for what it is, then what happens is your need to drive for more causes you to stop going after, and it causes you to start to relax. And as soon as you relax, the destiny is still coming. It's coming up on you. And the more you sit there, the closer it gets, the faster it can get there. But as soon as you get up and start chasing something that you think you need to do in order to be this or that or the other, then the destiny gets further into the rearview mirror. You got to stop and let it catch up. And that just means slowing down. So that might be, I had a gentleman I've been working with for 5-6 months now. And I'm like, okay, you need to find a day this week to do nothing. So here's what you need to do. On Fridays, you're going home at noon. Guy's been going into work at like 5 a.m. for 25 years and leaving at 5 o'clock. And the company's like, get the hell out of here. You drive us nuts. And so I'm like, dude, get out of there. Go home. So now he's doing that. And now it's catching on for him. At first he said, I don't think I can do that. Well, that was months and months ago. Now he's doing it. And now he's taking more time off. Now he's enjoying his motorhome. And, now we got to get his wife to talk to him again. Because she's just been at the other side of that hammer for 25 years.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You can imagine, right? So, I mean, it's a process. But I think you're right there. I think you probably already hit your tipping point. All I did was acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to be, ready to go. And I think you have enough information and material to know what you probably need to do that works for you, because everybody's different. But you know what you can't keep doing? That's the big piece.
Can't keep pushing forward.
You can't.
I know.
Yeah, you can't. You have to stop. There's achievers and there's receivers. There's people that achieve their life. There's people that receive their life. People telling me all the time, you got to do this, you got to do that. If I had your company, it'd be like this. You got to, and I just like, okay, whatever, dude. That's all right. I'm going swimming. and I go in the pool. I've got, I don't know, 24,000 email addresses. I've never sent one email to anyone. I just capture them when they assess, but I don't do anything with it. And they're like, dude, what the? And I'm like, that isn't floating me. What I'm doing with you right now, this floats me. And if I had too much to do, I wouldn't be effective. I'd be out of my mind. I can't go on like a Joe Rogan because it'll collapse the company.
Oh, yeah, right. No, right, exactly.
I'm a one-man show. I'm a practitioner, so I do what I can handle, and I love doing it. But I'm receiving everything. I haven't advertised in 16 years. It just shows up, and it's just what I need. And I think for you, a little bit of that's going to go a really long way. You don't have to be me, but just a little bit, because this is all the other side. Just get a little bit more on this, and a little is better. If you took that slat in the wine barrel and raised it 1 inch, you got that much more wine instantly.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's not even a life change as much as it's a tweak. Just a tweak. And then once you get used to that, you might tweak another one. And then another. Like that. And before you know it, it's smooth sailing. So that's pretty much all I got. All right. How we doing? Good?
Yeah. No, it's great. It's just it's the thing I knew that I had to do that is frustrating and difficult for me. Like, it's the antithesis. It's very much like it's like what got me to the top of my mountain isn't going to get me to the top of the next mountain, And
oh my God, that's great.
And
yes.
so I've got to, so my next battle is an anti-battle. It's letting all that stuff go,
Yeah. It's not a battle. It's not a fight. It's a surrender.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah? Right. An anti-battle. It's a surrender. Yeah. Which is just so antithetical to
that's right.
everything I've ever been in my life.
And you know what's crazy, Tucker? You know, the people that are able to do it the most are the dominant people.
Really?
They make a decision, and once they make the decision, they do it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I hope that's. But here's the problem. I'm less dominant than I used to be.
It's statistically true.
I'm less dominant than I used to be.
I know, but you're still dominant.
Okay.
When you're in shared space, you're like pushing 80, man. Yeah. 85. You're there. So once you get it and you see the reasonability in it, you will do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's what'll happen.
All right, so we got to do this again in 5 years, and
yeah,
maybe by then it'll be way farther ahead. Oh yeah. Thanks, Steve. I surrendered, and now I have a $1 billion company because I started, swimming more or whatever.
Oh man, that's really great. Well, good, man. I'm glad this turned out the way it did. I know I had to push through towards the end there a little bit harder.
No, that's fine. Listen, I told you I was happy to have that. That's always it is with me. You kind of got to push through with me a little.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, and we did, and it's great. And again, it's not everything. It's just something.
Yep.
Right? You don't have to do everything. Just something. It's better than nothing.